Welcome back to the Blister and Muck podcast. I'm Jenny Mason, your host and the creator of the Blister and Muck series. This week, Blister's crew lands in hot water. Should they give it a disaster or take some calculated whisks? Before I jump into what's shaken down in the Blister and Muck universe, I first want to thank all you listeners for your patience. This episode is coming to you late because I caught a tremendous cold. For days, I could do nothing but sleep and sneeze and cough and blow my nose. And if that wasn't bad enough, I lost my voice entirely. Oh, speaking of voices, I also have a super exciting guest voice actor alert. A totally terrific human being recently visited the Blister and Muck sound booth and sat before the microphone to perform some of the voices you'll hear in today's episode. Listen closely. See if you can locate when that special guest voice is in action. Later on, I'll offer some clues and we'll see if you can guess who this mystery person is. Now, where were we? Oh yes, the weekly adventure recap. The water's hot, and we're cooking with gas. You better simmer down, 'cause a watched pot never boils. So we gotta stir the pot, but if you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. Seriously, get out of the kitchen. Stop rummaging for snacks. Cozy up in a sit-down way before you miss this action-packed episode. As you may recall, our ragtag team was just setting out to infiltrate Dr. Van Sangfreud's junk castle. Against oil odds, they intend to rescue their friends and take down the doctor's entire animal zapping and meganimal-making enterprise. If they don't succeed, their goose is cooked. They couldn't actually recruit a goose. Truth be told, they couldn't recruit anybody except for some stray dogs and twin professors robed in dresses. Based on this evidence, I have to say Dish Rescue Mission is not likely to bring smooth sailing. It's certainly not going to be a walk in the park. Is there any chance this hasty scheme will pan out? Or is it going to turn into one big debacle? If debacle is a new word for you, it refers to disasters, or anything that totally collapses. Originally, debacle referred to when melting ice on a river broke apart, leading to calamitous floods. Debacle is one of my all-time favorite words, not because I have a yen for misfortune, but rather because of how the word sounds exactly like what it means. Try saying debacle, and you'll notice how the word totally falls apart around your tongue. And a debacle is precisely what our heroes are facing as they strike into enemy territory. It's like they're jumping out of the frying pan and into the fire. Basically, they've got a winner-takes-all mentality. In other words, it's a no-holds-barred attitude. Similarly, you could say they're gonna burst in shouting, "Bake my day!" Let's just hope that no matter what happens, our heroes don't panic, because there's no such thing as a money bake guarantee. Episode 14. Hide and Sneak. By the time they were in sight of the Van Sangfreud castle, all three men were clad in ladies' lab smocks, wigs, and frilly caps. The sun had fully set, taking with it the angry cranberry colors, leaving behind a brooding eggplant sky. Through the rhino-busted hole in the brick wall, A portion of the ballroom laboratory sat visible. Busy shadow figures waltzed across the walls. "Clever is the plan," Orville said, crouched behind the shrubs for cover. "But slim is the luck on our side. Let us review so that we proceed with precision from here on out." The dog pack sat. Their scruffy tails were compass needles tracking a dancing North Pole.
Review.
Let's review. Yes.
Review.
Let's review. See here, does anyone have a hairpin? Bertie fussed with his wig. Ahem. Orville cleared his throat imperiously. Bertie apologized and ceased quaffing his wig. The Brinks and I will go in first. Establish ourselves as members of the Feminine Society. Become one with our sisters in science.
Then I come charging in.
Gorgeous George interjected. No, George, not yet, Orville said. George wilted. He dragged the ear horn through the dirt. First, the rats will exit our skirt pockets and lure the cats outside. George raised his triumphant trunk and cone.
Then I storm inside, and I...
No, George, not just yet. Again, trunk and cone plopped to the ground. Once the cats are outside, then the dogs will keep them occupied. The dogs eagerly chuffed.
Chase,
Bite
chase,
the cats.
chase.
Bite the cats.
Chase.
Catnip. Orville patted the dogs, infecting them with wriggles. The Brinks and I will then begin to subdue the nefarious henchmen, hench ladies, at which point we'll give the signal for... Orville looked to George, who pouted and yanked grass clumps from the soil. We'll give the signal for... Barty ribbed Gorgeous George with his elbow. My good man. George swung the cone to his ear, and his gaze swung across the twins, the dogs, the rats, and back to Orville. We'll give the signal for...
Oh, for me.
Gorgeous George stomped his rickety legs in a jolly kind of dance.
I will come charging in and use my indomitable strength to overpower any bad guy or gal who crosses my path.
Exactly. Then we'll rescue the captives and deliver all the criminals to the police. Are we ready? Everyone nodded. And off we go. Finding no guards, feline or feminine, the motley army jogged across the gravel lot to the huddle of abandoned delivery trucks. The rescue party made another dash and pressed their backs to the outer wall of the ballroom. A hectic tapping echoed out of the lab. Tap, rattle, rattle, wham, ping, clatter, clatter. Whatever the women in the lab were doing, Blister deduced from the sounds they were very busy. Orville tiptoed up the pile of rubble and peeked inside. He soon ditched his sneaky posture and signaled the others to come and see. Everyone leaned around the jagged edge of the broken bricks and gaped at the laboratory. There were no lab ladies, no ORBSs, no Mrs. Chettingley, no Vexler, no Jana, no trace of Jan van Sangfreud, Rip, or Spindle. Worst of all, there was no Muck. There was, however, a cat. Slackjaw pounced, sprang, chased, and stalked a knob that had broken off the neurocognitive paresal serum extractor, which appeared to have been harvested for parts. The centrifuge sat still and emptied of all its vials. As the cat battled the knob around the lab, it rattled, tapped, and whammed off surfaces. Several brightly burning oil lamps splashed the walls with cat shadows, dashing this or that way. Slackjaw played on, completely unaware of his audience. He flopped on his back and bobbled the knob on his swiping paws, as if the knob had pinned him to the floor. One of the stray dogs whined. Up to then, the entire pack had frozen in an anxious, hunting squat. Hearing the whine, Slackjaw jolted up and puffed himself into a frizzed fur arch. In that lingering, breathless pause, the cat and his audience might have been statues in a museum. Even the wind seemed to settle and still. But then, Gorgeous George finally cleared the blur out of his aged gaze. He squealed and holstered the cone.
Kitty! Come here, kitty, kitty, kitty.
He stampeded over the rubble, his trunk reaching out for the cat. Slackjaw hissed. The dog pack bounded into the ballroom, and the chase began. They barked. Slackjaw streaked once around the ballroom, then out through the hole in the wall. Orville, Barty, and Bertie shouted all the dog commands they could think of. Stop.
Leave it.
Sit.
Heel.
Sit.
Leave it.
No.
Heel.
All to no avail. The dogs streamed after the feline bolt, which disappeared into the woods. The wind rubbed away the last traces of barking. Blister investigated the ballroom laboratory, which still wore much of the destruction sown during his escape the night before. He found mostly toppled tables, busted instruments, and shattered glass. The contraption, or what was left of it, appeared to have been cracked open like a walnut. Its insides sat mostly empty. The magnetic cages and electric generator were gone.
But
Blister turned in a helpless circle.
where are they?
Think, Blister, Orville urged. Was there anywhere else Yana might have used for a laboratory?
No. Well, not really,
Blister said. He explained about the townhouse on Atramental Avenue.
But Yana never uses it for science.
Now see here.
Bertie tipped his wig like a cap.
We require a secondary plan.
And fast, my good man.
Barty nodded.
But I don't know where else to look.
Blister pulled his ears and nodded his tail.
Pooh!
Bile cupped his snout in his paws.
Old houses smells like river scum, them's does.
Blister sniffed. Had the mansion always smelled like moldy mud and festering seaweed? He could not recall.
What's that sound?
Gorgeous George panned his ear horn left and right. They listened to the creaks and groans of the wind-battered structure. Strange scrapings, gnashings, chompings, and chewings issued from inside the walls, as though the wind gnawed the castle from the inside out.
Nothing but a relic what's rotten.
Bile patted George's leg. George insisted.
No, not that. The other sound. It's like a buzzing.
On the heels of George's description followed a stupendous ruckus, thundering from some faraway portion of the junk heap estate.
Now see here, what was that?
Bertie edged toward the exit.
Maybe the wind knocked a tree into the house,
Scab said, also inching backwards. Lightning flashed outside. Thunder cracked and rumbled. The rain came like a wall of water spears, stabbing at every surface. Everyone shivered, but Blister told himself it was because of the cold, moist air.
If you asks me,
Bile offered.
it sounded more like one of them's avalanches.
Before Blister could point out there were no snowy mountains in the immediate vicinity, Gag, Grime, and Spit argued.
What's avalanches?
It's a kind of horse.
No, avalanches are what you hang over windows.
Bile growled.
Valances goes on windows. Avalanches is snow what falls down mountains.
You three go round up the dogs.
Scab commanded.
But it's raining.
It's cold.
Get going.
Scab targeted their bottoms when she swung her foot. Spit, Grime, and Gag hurried over the rubble into the storm. Orville paced the dance floor. Let's think about this logically. If I remember correctly, the Van Sangfreuds might have held significant portions of property in Upper Crust.
See here, perhaps we ought to search there.
Bertie Brink broached.
Good idea, my good man.
Barty Brink bolstered.
Bad idea.
Scab interrupted.
There won't be another train out of Blackrust tonight, and it'll take days to search a city we don't know.
Why would thems go and leaves the oil lamps burning? I says thems is coming back.
An argument erupted between the men and the rats. Rain, thunder, and wind added to the clamor. Blister sensed the ballroom shrinking tighter than a hool tunnel. He was just about to cram his paws in his ears when he heard the rhythmic buzzing. It gurgled, much like the last dregs of scummy water twisting down a drainpipe.
Shush!
He shouted over the others.
George is right. There is a buzz, or something. It's coming from upstairs.
I hear it, Orville confirmed, after standing a moment with his eyes closed, ears filtering through noises.
Kinda comes and goes?
Scab asked. Blister nodded. Follow me. Orville scooped up one of the oil lamps and directed them to the skeletal remains of a formerly sweeping staircase that connected the dance floor to an upper deck designed for making grand entrances, mingling, and observing the general bobbing rotation of waltzes. Before everyone made it up the staircase, a colossal smashing and rumbling quivered through the ballroom. The walls buckled, the ceiling egg-shelled, the whole room toppled into a pile of wood beams, plaster, and furniture hunks from the rooms above. Orville, Blister, and Barty cowered together at the top of the stairs. More than half of the staircase had been pulverized. Only a stubby chin of steps hung over the summits of debris. The remains of the observatory deck draped like a brittle ribbon.
Scab!
George!
Bile!
Bertie!
The men searched for a safe route off the embankment. Blister leapt down and dug through the rubble, calling out for the others. Scab and Bile wormed out, chalked with dust. Blister, to his own surprise, actually hugged them. Bile hugged back, but Scab shoved him away.
Gross!
She declared. George's voice muffled through the debris.
Hello? Now see here.
Buried Bertie bellowed, barely audible.
Are you all right?
Blister shouted.
Yes,
Bertie answered.
the centrifuge saved us. We're in a teepee.
George called.
You three go on, Scab said. We'll dig them out.
No, Orville called,
the job will require all of us to complete.
When Spit, Grime, and Gag return with the dogs, we'll have help.
She's right,
Bile said.
we ain't even found the sorceress yet. Go checks the rest of the house. If you ain't finding nothing, comes back and helps us dig out.
Blister agreed. He rejoined Barty and Orville, who labored to wedge open a pair of gold-gilded doors. The sudden collapse of the ballroom warped the wall and the door frame within it, tilting the doors like crooked teeth. When at last they budged a gap, Orville and Blister squeezed through.
Bertie, my good man, Bertie, I'll be right back,
Barty Brink bargained.
See here, get going.
Bertie Brink blasted. Orville led the sortie, oil lamp held high to light the way. They threaded long hallways, putrid rooms, and galleries haunted with faded paintings. Wherever they went, the scraping, gnashing, chomping, chewing sounds in the walls seemed to follow. The buzz grew louder and distinguished itself into at least 3 or 4 different varieties of gurgles, snurgles, and glots. I think it is coming from the library, Orville said. He conducted them into parts of the castle Blister finally recognized. They halted outside the towering doors shut upon the library and its buzzing mystery. The rescue party pressed their ears to the doors and heard scrapes, clicks, whispers, as well as the rise and fall of buzzes in different octaves and keys. Around it all swirled the steady, electric hum of the generator. Orville gestured for everyone to step back so he could ease one door open. Blister peered through the gap and swigged air.
We found them,
he hissed. Dung in the gutter! This rescue mission has been an absolute debacle. So many things went wrong right from the start. How many did you count? 1,000,000, or more like a bullion? And did you see that entire ballroom laboratory collapse? I roast my case. This episode was a stupendous failure. Although, to be fair, our heroes weren't even remotely whipped. They got right bake on their feet. That is to say, some of them did. Bertie and George remained trapped in the rubble. Tune in next time to find out who or what Blister's crew has found in the Junk Castle Library. Is it Vexler's captives from the cathedral? Have they found Muck, Rip, and Spindle? On the other hand, it could be the villain's army. In which case, our heroes have 2 choices. Either they get embroiled in battle, or they extend an olive brunch. Were you able to recognize the guest voice actor? Let me see if I can provide some clues to assist you. Her charisma makes her irresistible. She is an oasis of support for me and others. And even though sharing wasn't the basis of our relationship when we were younger, she now insists on generosity. Still not sure who that mystery voice comes from? Tune in again to hear this guest star perform even more voices in the episodes leading to the rousing season finale and series conclusion of the Blister and Muck saga. Do you think you know who the special guest is? Stop by blisterandmuck.com and use the contact form to tell me your answer. If you're right, I'll send you a free Blister and Muck sticker. You can also use the contact form to tell me what you think will happen next. Know any cooking and food jokes better or worse than these? How fast is milk? It's pasteurized before you know it. Speaking of milk, where do chefs go to learn about serving ice cream? To Sunday school. And while we're on the topic of cold things, what do polar bears make for dinner? Icebergers. Share your best bad joke, and I'll give you a shout-out when I share it on the show. You'll never miss an episode when you subscribe to the show directly at blisterandmuck.com. Subscribing is free, and you get an email alert as soon as the newest episode releases. While you're at the website, I encourage you to please lend your support by making a donation or by selecting a cozy, colorful hat, shirt, or face mask from the Blister and Muck gift shop. A portion of your purchase helps cover the costs of web hosting, sound effects, and music licensing. And you'll find a special surprise from the entire Blister and Muck crew has been enclosed with your order. And if money is not a visitor that often comes to stay in your home, you can definitely support the show by giving it some stars or a positive review on whatever app or platform you use to listen along. Reviews and likes help other listeners discover this madcap caper. Special thanks to Roland Rudzitis for serving up the Blister and Muck theme song. Additional music from Kevin MacLeod, Mon Plaisir, Loyalty Freak Music, and Komiku. Mark D'Angelo, Mike Koenig, and I Do Musics brought the wind and the rainstorm. Other creepy sounds from Schmadio and Mike Koenig. All other sounds from the public domain. I always esteem my family, friends, and fans. One for one, and all for you.